You're in some deep, deep pain that money can't fix. Am I right? You came over here for fellowship and love.
My mother... she just passed.
Last year in October, we covered an entire month of vampire movies, and the hits keep coming. In January, Robert Eggers released his long-awaited gothic horror, Nosferatu, an adaptation of the 1922 German silent horror film, which was in itself an unlicensed adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. The story of Dracula has been told over and over again, including by Coppola in Bram Stoker's Dracula. We also talked about Robert Rodriguez's From Dusk Till Dawn, a pretty unique vampire film, written by Quentin Tarantino. Tonight we're going to talk about the newest vampire film, Ryan Coogler's Sinners, which the director of Black Panther and Creed wrote, produced, and directed as a passion project. Coogler wrote a letter about his inspirations when writing the screenplay that he reached to, and Robert Rodriguez, Coppola, and Tarantino are on that list. As been pointed out a bunch, so this movie does share some similarities with From Dusk Till Dawn.
Why you need him to do that? You big and strong enough to push past us?
Well, that wouldn't be too polite now, would it, Miss Annie? I don't know why I'm talking to you anyway.
It was also inspired by the Stephen King book Salem's Lot. Sinners stars Michael B. Jordan, Miles Caton, Wunmi Musaku, Haley Sanfield, Helen Hu, Yao, Delroy Lindo, and Jack O'Connell. Michael B. Jordan, who was in both Black Panther as Killmonger and Creed as Adonis Johnson, has a long-standing collaborative relationship with Ryan Coogler, going back to Coogler's directorial debut, Fruitvale Station, where he starred as Oscar Grant in a dramatization of true events, telling the story of Grant's last 24 hours before he was shot by a rapid transit cop while being detained.
You have my cell phone?
Yeah, I got your dash number, bro.
I said shut the fuck up and put that phone away.
Yeah, worry about why? What you trying to hide, bro?
You keep these assholes secured. I'm gonna check the train for witnesses.
In Sinners, Michael B. Jordan plays two brothers, Smoke and Stack, the Smokestack twins. World War I veterans who left their home in the Mississippi Delta, where you're more than likely, even when this movie takes place in 1932, going to waste away working as a sharecropper in the cotton fields if you're a black man. To work as hired muscle for the Chicago outfit, eventually growing tired of the gangster life, they've stolen money from the Chicago gangsters and returned home to start their lives over. They pick up their little cousin Sammy, the preacher's boy, played by Miles Caton, whose dad is a local preacher, and who loves to play the blues on a guitar that his father believes is supernatural and the devil's music. The Smokestack twins have planned to set up a juke joint, a bar for the black residents of their hometown of Clarksdale, along with their friends, a Chinese couple who own the local store, Grace and Bo, who they use to supply the place, and Smoke's estranged wife Annie, who is a witch doctor and faith healer.
Oh, I'm obsessed with Irish folk music. My kids are obsessed with it. Look, my first name is Irish. I think it's not known how much how much crossover there is between, like, you know, African American culture and Irish culture, and how much that stuff's loved in our community. You know, it was very important that our vampire, you know, our master vampire of this movie was unique and as specific as the situation was. You know, it was important to me that he was old, but also that he came from a time that pre-existed these racial definitions, so that he would be extremely odd, you know, and it would all seem odd to him, but also that he would see it for what it was and offer a sweet deal, you know.
At the same time, a strange white man arrives at the home of a Klan member and his wife, begging to come into the house because he's being chased by Choctaw Indians, and to not listen to them whatever they say. The Choctaw warn that he's a dangerous man and must be killed, but they don't listen, because they're literally Klan members. Well, it turns out he's dangerous because he's an ancient vampire from Ireland who devours the blood of the couple and turns them into his first vampire converts. Ryan Coogler has explained that he picked an Irish vampire, first because he was researching vampires and learned about a story from Ireland about the vampire Arbitok, who has been theorized was one of Bram Stoker's inspirations for Dracula. Also because an ancient Irish vampire would not understand the social and legal constructs of race existing in the Jim Crow South, which plays a big role when the vampires who are white show up at a black bar where they're legally barred.
I wish in my heart that we'd have met sooner. I would have liked to have saved your mother from her fate. I can still save you from yours.
Oh, now you must have me confused. I'm sad as all, but I don't need no saving.
Yes. Yes, you do. You all do.
The Irish vampire remake walks around as transient musicians and preachers used to do, singing Irish folk songs preaching the gospel of fellowship and love. Remick, who is a kind of Killmonger type figure, because like Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger in Black Panther, Remick's gospel of fellowship and love honestly sounds a lot better than working in the cotton fields as a sharecropper. You get eternal life, no racial distinctions, and these vampires all share a hive mind, and anything they know, you all know. But you have to invite the vampires in.
For the summer time has come, and the trees are sweetly blooming. The wild mountain thyme grows around the river.
Coogler also explained he loves Irish folk music while writing and researching the historical part of the film. He learned about the Irish, Chinese, Choctaw, all of these other ethnic groups who lived in the Mississippi Delta along with the white planters and black sharecroppers and contributed to the culture and society as well. Although their stories are not as well known, and he wanted us to know about them too. They all influenced the culture, including the development of blues.
I never felt like it belonged to me. It felt like it was music for, for older people. But he passed away in 2015. And I was devastated. I was away from home as I normally was, making a film called Creed. When I got the news, and after he passed, I started to listen to old blues records to kind of remind myself of him, and if I did it enough, I would feel like he was there with me, almost like I was conjuring his spirit. And the base of the idea started with that. And when I started to do my research on blues music, specifically the Delta blues music that came out of that Mississippi Delta, I discovered that there's a firm argument to be made that this art form, the Delta blues, is our country's most important contribution to global popular culture. I think it's probably our most important artistic contribution to the world. And it was such a profound discovery.
Music is a very important part of this film. Sammy's Blues calls forth ancient spirits from the past and future, transcending time in a pretty beautiful sequence. With everything from early blues in the Delta to hip-hop, jazz, soul, R&B, all as a continuum. Contrasted, but in some ways even similar, to the Irish folk songs of the vampire. The supernatural, religion, and community all mingle here too. The famed blues guitarist, Buddy Guy, is used for a cameo as the old version of Sammy at the end. I found the ambivalence that this movie has towards Christianity interesting. Sammy is a preacher's boy, but his relationship to his father and the church is pretty strained, with the church being more of an oppressive force. And it's definitely not something like The Exorcist, where after confronting the face of evil, the characters have some kind of reconversion. But spirituality is definitely not absent from the film, including the spirits of the dead and the future, called forth by the music. The music is a spiritually transcendent element, blues in particular. One of my favorite lines that stuck out to me watching the movie again. Sammy attempts to stop the vampire using the Lord's Prayer, which then gets all the vampires repeating the Lord's Prayer. And the vampire Remick says, "When those men took my father's land, they forced those words onto us too. I hate those men, but the words still bring me comfort." Another line by the blues man, Delta Slim, says, "Blues is ours. It came from us. It wasn't forced on us like Christianity." I like that ambivalence about religion, understood as a tool of the oppressor that still brings comfort to people who are oppressed. I think that nuance allows sinners to rise above other vampire movies. Warner Brothers negotiated a deal with Ryan Coogler to make this film for $90 million and to give first dollar gross, which allows Ryan Coogler to get some of the money back before they get their full return, as well as giving him ownership of the film after 25 years. As well as showing their faith in his work, offering a wide release to start out instead of the more narrow releases that films often do to test out markets.
Go ahead. Admit to it.
Admit to what?
That you dead.
So you listening to this?